Hey everybody, Scott here for the Helix channel and the HX Stomp channel. They're kind of the same thing now. I'm just going to be doing videos for both. Today, I'm going to go through some of the setup of the HX Stomp in the global settings and how to use an expression pedal to control multiple parameters within the HX Stomp, freeing up one of your switches or multiple switches. It depends on what you use the switches for. I personally would use the switches for clean, crunch, and solo if I didn't have an expression pedal. But since I do, I don't have to have a dedicated solo. I can use the expression pedal to handle all of the solo bits. And I'll show you how. Okay, here we are over the HX Stomp. First thing we need to do is a couple of global settings. So hit both page buttons at the same time, press them in, page to the next, you get global settings, push that in. Now, it's important to me that these are all set to instrument, because that means I'm not sending a clipping level signal out to the mixing board or out to my power amp to go into my speaker. And if you run direct, you definitely want to set these to instrument, because the sound man does not want to feel a line level signal coming from no guitar. Ain't no way, no how. And they'll yell at you. Most of them anyway. I leave the rest of the settings alone. Here are the other ones that I change. I set the snapshot edits to discard, which means if you make a snapshot edit and then you go back to another snapshot, it will discard that unless you save it. So you need to get into the habit of saving your anytime you make an edit before you switch to another snapshot. It's just something I've gotten used to doing. And then setting the tempo pitch to transparent. That means when you go in between a couple of different snapshots or presets that have different tempos on the delays, it's not going to freak out and make a really weird noise. It's going to slowly adjust to the new tempo in a way that isn't going to hurt your ears and make you disoriented. I've left all of these the same, and those are the only, the first two are the only ones that I really need to monkey around with. Now, let's put in a couple of things here. We want to build a preset that we can control a bunch of parameters with the expression pedal. Let's go with the valve driver. Let's go with an amp. How about a guitar amp? I like guitar amps. Kelly Texas 2. That's not the right one. What happened? I want that one. And I'm going to put an IR. I know, call me crazy. I just prefer them. And whenever possible, we'll go with the 2048 sample because it's better sounding. Now, here's one of the benefits of the IRs. You can choose a different IR per snapshot. You can't do that with the stock cabs. You're stuck with whatever stock cab you've got for the entire preset. You can change aspects of it. You can change the microphone, and you can change the the low and high cuts, things like that. But you can't change the actual cab. So with this, with IRs, you can actually have, for a clean sound. Say we go over here and we bypass the overdrive and we set up a clean sound. I'm going to snapshot enable a bunch of stuff. So I'm pressing in the button, turning it to the left. Now it's snapshot enabled. We've got, do the same thing with that one. Setting up a clean sound here. The bass, I'm just going to roll that down to 1.2 just to do it. And the mids way down to 1.8, and the treble's down to 3.3. The channel volume, of course, though, for a clean sound, we're going to go all the way up to 9. Roll the presence down about 2.2, and the master up to 9.2. I like the sag set to 6, the ripple to 6.6, And for a clean sound, I like the bias to be set to about 5.8. And that's that. So going over to the IR, we're going to choose a Celestine IR. I really like the 412 greenback. The low cuts on the clean sound, we're going to snapshot enable that. So push it in, turn it to the right. We're going to go about 100 hertz on the low cut, and then roll the high cuts back to about 5.5. Now, the level usually for, say, a clean sound will want to be about 4 dB higher than that of an overdriven one, because the overdriven one sound is going to be louder. So we're going to leave that where that is. And now we're going to set some parameters for the expression pedal. So what we want to do is we want to give ourselves a boost if we push the expression pedal forward. And that's what I like to do with the expression pedal mainly. And one of the main parameters is the master. So press in the both page buttons, then controller assign, then find the master. Set that to expression 1 because that's what we've got the expression pedal working as, or on. And then our minimum should be 9.2, which is where we were. And then the maximum 10. Just hit the view button to get out of that. Now we can go over to the master, push the expression forward. You can see, whoops, there we go. A little bit more in focus. My camera has issues. It's an iPhone. And it's looking very dark too, even though there's a bunch of lights on it. So another thing that I like to do for leads is pushing some output level. Now, let's hit the page buttons, controller assign, level, expression 1. Now you got to start at 0 though, because that's where the baseline was when we started, was at 0. Oh, this thing takes off on you. There's no way to control it sometimes. Holy smokes. Now we want plus 4.4. And then, there we go. Goes from 0 to 4.4. Pretty slick. Now, another thing I really like to do is control delay and reverb parameters for solos. And let's put in a reverb. Let's grab, no, I don't want any of those. Oh, Jesus. Let's grab the 63 Spring. I like that one a lot. And set the decay to 2.0. I always run a pre-delay of 100 milliseconds, almost always on a Spring or plate reverb. And then I set the low cuts accordingly, somewhere between 220 and 330 hertz on the bottom end, and then usually, 10 times that, so 2.8 kilohertz and 3.3. So we want the trails to be on, so that when you go from one snapshot to the next, the reverb doesn't die. And it's the same when you go from one preset to the next. The trails go on and on. So you don't hear an abrupt change in the reverb, which is super lame. Now, one of the parameters we want to change, the main parameter we want to change, let's bring the mix down to 30. So we're going to bring the reverb level up. So press the controller, go to mix, expression 1. Our minimum was 30. I'm going to bring it up to 36. It's subtle, but effective. And we're going to do the same thing with a delay. Going to grab a delay here. I like the duck delay. We're going to go with 444 milliseconds. And we're going to start with our feedback at 33. Now, for delays, I almost always set the low and high cuts to 300 hertz and then 3 kilohertz. Almost always. So this is our clean sound. I usually like to start with The delay is around 18% for a clean tone. And then what we want to do, I'll turn off the threshold and the ducking because that's annoying. Not a fan of that, but turn the trails on. Now, let's do a thing first. We need to move this to path B, and then move the merge point in front of that. So now they're isolated. They're running parallel instead of series. And series reverb into delay is just not my thing. I'm not a fan of that. So let's change a few things here. So we're going to go with the feedback first, expression 1. We had a 33 feedback before. We're going to bring that up to 44 for our lead sound. And then we're also going to adjust our mix. So expression 1, of course, and the mix was 18%. We're going to go up to 24%. Cool. Now let's grab a guitar and hear what we've done. Listen to what you've done, mister. Okay, I've saved the clean sound. Now we need to make the overdriven sound. So we go, just press on snapshot 2, and we need to go over here to the valve driver, turn it on. You need to turn on the gate too. So we're going to use a gate of about there, -60 for the overdrive. Let me quickly save that so I can go back and look at where I've got it set for there, and that's way too low. 72 is a good spot for the clean, for a gate and a clean channel. So now here we are back at the overdrive. Are we getting any sound? Oh yes, we are. So what we want to do is roll this back about 5.5, 4.6, 3.3, 6.4. Okay, so now let me save that real quick. I save a lot, but you know, also it's great because I don't, you know, I don't lose a lot of stuff. My stuff doesn't get. Oh, all right. A couple of adjustments need to be made to the amp model and the IR, mainly the IR. So we need to roll the low cut down, and the level of the IR. Got to change a couple of things for the overdrive. The volume is way too high. Needs to be down to around 6. It's just, you know, much hotter at that point. And another thing I like to do when I'm setting up my expression pedal for solos is I like to take away the presence, because I find that it too much presence can be brittle when you're soloing, and makes the top end notes super annoying and too sharp. So set the expression to there. We'll set our minimum to 2.2 where we were, and maximum to 0. So we're using it to go backwards. So when you look at the presence, push the expression forward, the master goes up, but the presence goes down, which is great. Another thing I like to do is set the bias to go up. And we were at 5.8 to start. We're going to go 6.6. Cool. There you go. Okay, so, oopsie, we save that. Now, go back to our clean sound, and we have our pushing the expression forward. extra repeats from the delay, extra reverb, all the fun stuff that's added. And when we go over to the overdrive, here's our crunch sound. Let me check where the reverb or the delay is set for that. 18 is a little bit high. Actually, here's here's one of the little problems that you run into when you're setting mix levels. You can only, have one bottom and one top when you're using the expression pedal. If you're using snapshots, you can set multiple levels. So this is one of the things you have to deal with. It's got to be kind of a give and take, and I don't like 18% on my overdrive channel, so we're just going to roll that back a little bit, and it'll be a bit of a give and take between the two. You save that. So now now our minimum is 16, and the reverb is, or the delay isn't. It's not too much. Pressing the expression forward. Very cool. There you have it, everybody. Another fun HX Stomp video. I can't recommend highly enough getting an expression pedal. You don't need to have this DoD mini one. You can get a Mission. They're great. I've had maybe close to half a dozen of the Mission pedals over the years, going all the way back to the G system. The first one that they made that was dedicated for a unit was for the G system, I believe, back in 2011 or 12. And then I had one for the Kemper. I had one for the Helix. I've had them for other units. I've had just their standard expression, the EXP1. Great pedals. So get yourself an expression pedal. It'll save you a lot of hassle, because you won't have to look at your switches when you go to hit your leads. You just put your foot down on the biggest thing down there, practically. And if you know where your expression pedal is, you don't even need to look, which is the way that things work for me, which is great. So do yourself a favor, do that. You don't necessarily need a MIDI controller, although it does also make things easier too, because the switching is so much easier to deal with, for me anyway. But this was cheap, 75 bucks on eBay. That was 99 bucks on eBay. So for an additional $175, that was shipped. So you really do expand the HX Stomp's usability. So think about that. Okay, so I'll be back tomorrow with my final video of the week. Thursday morning, I'm driving to Phoenix. It's going to be a long-ass drive, 15 hours. Woo! It's just something me and my wife do every now and again, because we hate ourselves. I don't know why we do it. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. And until then, rock on.